Author and humorist Terry Pratchett said, "Escapism isn't good or bad in itself. What's important is what you're escaping from and where you're escaping to." My name is Tricia Sulpizio. I'm your host for another episode of Tea and Bedtime Stories. It's a podcast for anyone who likes to listen to and discuss good books. In this episode, we'll continue reading A Farewell to Arms, a novel by Ernest Hemingway published in 1929. Last time we read chapter 11 in book 1, and now I will finish book 1 with chapter 12. After the reading, I'll follow up with a few quick facts and my impressions. So let's begin again with book 1, or finish book 1 with chapter 12. The room was long with windows on the right-hand side and a door at the far end that went into the dressing room. The rows of beds that mine was in faced the windows, and another row under the windows faced the wall. If you lay on your left side, you could see the dressing room door. There was another door at the far end that people sometimes came in by. If anyone were going to die, they would put a screen around the bed so you could not see them die. But only the shoes and puttees of doctors and men nurses showed under the bottom of the screens, and sometimes at the end there would be whispering. Then the priest would come out from behind the screen, and afterward the men nurses would go back behind the screen and come out again, carrying the one who was dead with a blanket over him, down the corridor between the beds, and someone folded the screen and took it away. That morning, the major in charge of the ward asked me if I felt that I could travel the next day. I said I could. He said then they would ship me out early in the morning. He said I would be better off making the trip now, before it got too hot. When they lifted you up out of bed to carry you into the dressing room, you could look out of the window and see the new graves in the garden. A soldier sat outside the door that opened onto the garden, making crosses and painting on them the names and rank and regiment of the men who were buried in the garden. He also ran errands for the ward, and in his spare time made me a cigarette lighter out of an empty Austrian rifle cartridge. The doctors were very nice and seemed very capable. They were anxious to ship me to Milan, where there were better x-ray facilities and where, after the operation, I could take Mechano-therapy. I wanted to go to Milan too. They wanted to get us all out and back as far as possible because all the beds were needed for the offensive when it should start. The night before I left the field office, Rinaldi came in to see me with the major from our mess. They said that I would go to an American hospital in Milan and that had just been installed. Some American ambulance units were to be sent down and this hospital would look after them and any other Americans on service in Italy. There were many in the Red Cross. The States had declared war on Germany, but not on Austria. The Italians were sure Americans would declare war on Austria too, and they were very excited about any Americans coming down, even the Red Cross. They asked me if I thought President Wilson would declare war on Austria, and I said it was only a matter of days. I didn't know what we had against Austria, but it seemed logical that they should declare war on her if they did on Germany. They asked me if we would declare war on Turkey. I said it was doubtful. Turkey, I said, was our national bird, but the joke translated so badly, and they were so puzzled and suspicious that I said yes, we would probably declare war on Turkey. And on Bulgaria, we had drunk several glasses of brandy, and I said yes, by God, on Bulgaria too, and on Japan. But they said, Japan is an ally of England. Well, you can't trust the bloody English. The Japanese want Hawaii, I said. Where is Hawaii? It's in the Pacific Ocean. Why do the Japanese want it? They don't really want it, I said. That is all talk. The Japanese are wonderful little people, fond of dancing and light wines. Like the French, said the major. We will get Nice and Savoy from the French. We will get Corsica and all the Adriatic coastline, Rinaldi said. Italy will return to the splendor of Rome, said the Major. I don't like Rome, I said. It is hot and full of fleas. You don't like Rome? Yes, I love Rome. Rome is the mother of nations. I will never forget Romulus suckling the Tiber. What? Nothing. Let's all go to Rome. Let's go to Rome tonight and never come back. Rome is a beautiful city, said the Major. The mother and father of nations, I said. Rome is feminine, said Rinaldi. It cannot be the father. Who is the father then? The Holy Ghost? Don't blaspheme. I wasn't blaspheming. I was asking for information. You are drunk, baby. Who made me drunk? I made you drunk, said the Major. I made you drunk because I love you and because America is in the war. Up to the hilt, I said. You go away in the morning, baby, Rinaldi said. To Rome, I said. No, to Milan. To Milan, said the Major. To the Crystal Palace, to the Cova, to Campari's, to Biffi's, to the Galleria, you lucky boy. To the Grand Italia, I said, where I will borrow money from George. To the Scala, said Rinaldi. You will go to the Scala every night, I said. You won't be able to afford it every night, said the Major. The tickets are very expensive. I will draw a sight draft on my grandfather, I said. And what? A sight draft. He has to pay her. I go to jail. Mr. Cunningham at the bank does it. I live by sight drafts. Can a grandfather jail a patriotic grandson who is dying that Italy may live? Live the American Garibaldi, said Rinaldi. Viva the sight drafts, I said. We must be quiet, said the Major. Already we have been asked many times to be quiet. Do you go tomorrow, really, Federico? He goes to the American hospital, I tell you, Rinaldi said. To the beautiful nurses, not the nurses with the beards of this hospital. Yes, yes, said the Major. I know he goes to the American hospital. I don't mind their beards, I said. If any man wants to raise a beard, let him. Why don't you raise a beard, Signor Maggiore? It could not go in a gas mask. Yes, it could. Anything can go in a gas mask. I vomited into a gas mask. Don't be so loud, baby, Rinaldi said. We all know you've been to the front. Oh, you fine baby. What will I do while you're gone? We must go, said the Major. This becomes sentimental. Listen, I have a surprise for you. You're English, you know? The English you go to see every night at their hospital? She's going to Milan, too. She goes with another to be at the American hospital. They had not got nurses yet from America. I talked today with the head of the reparto. They have too many women here at the front. They send some back. How do you like that, baby? All right, yes? You go to live in a big city and have your English there to cuddle you. Why don't I get wounded? Maybe you will, I said. You must go, said the Major. We must go. We drink and make noise and disturb Federico. Don't go. Yes, we must go. Goodbye. Good luck. Many things. Ciao. 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 Come back quickly, baby. Rinaldi kissed me. You smell of Lysol. Goodbye, baby. Goodbye. Many things. The Major patted my shoulder. They tiptoed out. I found I was quite drunk, but went to sleep. The next day in the morning, we left for Milan and arrived 48 hours later. It was a bad trip. We were sidetracked for a long time this side of Mestre. And children came and peeked in. I got a little boy to go for a bottle of cognac, but he came back and said he could only get grappa. I told him to get it, and when it came, I gave him the change. And the man beside me and I got drunk and slept until past Vicenza, where I woke up and was very sick on the floor. It didn't matter because the man on that side had been very sick on the floor several times before. Afterward, I thought I could not stand the thirst, and in the yards outside of Verona, I called to a soldier who was walking up and down beside the train, and he got me a drink of water. I woke Giorgetti, the other boy who was drunk, and offered him some water. He said to pour it on his shoulder and went back to sleep. The soldier would not take the penny I offered him and brought me a pulpy orange. I sucked on that and spit out the pith and watched the soldier pass up and down past a freight car outside, and after a while the train gave a jerk and started. That is the end of chapter 12 and the end of book 1. Yeah. So now for a few quick facts and then my impressions. Mechano-therapy that he was mentioning while he was going to the American hospital is what we now call physical therapy. It's kind of interesting that the practice began as a program to rehabilitate and restore wounded soldiers to active duty, or at the very least try to release them from duty with the highest level of functionality possible. Turkey is referring to the Ottoman Empire, which had been at war with Italy only a few years prior to the start of World War I. The Italo-Turkey War had been from 1911 to 1912, and Italy basically wanted North African colonies, so they conquered all the Turkish provinces of Tripolitania and what they now call modern-day Libya. And so Turkey took sides with the Central Powers of Austria, Hungary, and Germany, and Italy was obviously on the side of the Allied forces. So it's kind of funny that the narrator's joke about Turkey is so American, right? If you didn't catch that, when he was calling turkey the national bird, he was referring to our Thanksgiving holiday, where in America it's our tradition to roast and serve turkey for dinner. Some people do ham, but they're lame because it's supposed to be turkey. I don't really care, but I like turkey. I can't stand ham. So if I go to Thanksgiving dinner and they're only serving ham, I'm butthurt the whole time. So anyway, a lot of people will do both. But anyway, okay, Bulgaria too became allied with the Central Powers during World War I. And I was trying to research, but I don't think Italy and Bulgaria had a bad relationship before World War I. They just ended up on opposing sides, I think, unintentionally. So I'm not sure why that was brought up. But anyway, when the major said, we'll get Nice and Savoy from the French, and we'll get Corsica and all of the Adriatic coastline, he was being very helpful. None of that happened, which is part of the provocation for World War II and the fascist movement, because men in Italy died and they got nothing. They were promised a lot by the Allied forces, but they were given literally nothing. So Nice is a coastal town on the Adriatic Sea. It's only 30 kilometers west of where the Italian border sits today. And interestingly, it is the birth city of Guiseppi Garibaldi, who was also mentioned in the chapter. He was the general who ended up unifying all of the provinces to create the one state or country of Italy. So the Savoy region is also located in the northwest tip of Italy. It's adjacent to France and what is now known as Switzerland. Corsica is an island in the Adriatic Sea, and it's part of France, but it sits just on top of the other two islands of Sicily, and I forget the other island. I'm sorry, I forgot to write it. Oh, Sardinia. So it's Corsica, then Sardinia, and then below that is Sicily, and they sit right next to the boot, the front end of the boot of Italy. So I don't know why that's part of France, but none of my business. Anyway, and when he said, I'll never forget Romulus suckling the Tiber, that was just gibberish. But there was a legend of Romulus. He was the founder of Rome, and in the legend of Romulus, he was suckled by a she-wolf as a baby. which is kind of weird. Anyway, the Tiber is the river on which Rome was built. But again, that statement was just nonsense. I don't know what they meant by the Crystal Palace. I'm pretty sure that just referred, when he was saying to the Crystal Palace, to the Cova, to the Campari's, Biffis, and to the Galleria, when they were toasting to all those things, I think he was referring to the Galleria itself. When he said the Crystal Palace, I know the Cova, Campari's, and Biffis were all cafes in what they call the Galleria itself. And the Galleria was like an outdoor mall of sorts. It's like glass covered with shops lining each side. It's gorgeous. If you see the pictures, I put references in the description of this episode to all of those places, every one of those cafes, and most were built, the Galleria itself was built in 1965, and so a lot of those cafes moved in to that space when it was newly built, and it's still standing today. It's really, really pretty. It's in the Latin cross architectural shape, and again, it's just iron frame with glass panels. But it was named after Vittorio Emmanuel II, and so it's considered his gallery. Its nickname is Il Salotto di Milano, which is Milan's drawing room. So it's kind of like the place for entertainment for all of the best people, I guess, in that area. La Scala is the opera house in Milan. Those were the tickets he was referring to that you can't afford. Yeah, Campari's, interestingly enough, was a cafe, if you've ever heard of bitters, Red Passion, that's made with the same recipe. It's an aperitif as well, but it's been made with the same recipe since 1860, and they started their business with a little cafe in the Galleria, which is kind of cute. And then the Cova is a little cafe still in Milan. Gorgeous. They make delightful little confections there. And Biffi's is a bakery also in Milan. Kind of fun. I can't wait to go visit there someday. But as I said, when he was talking about Garibaldi, that he meant Guiseppi. He was the Italian general who unified Italy. Riparto just means like a division or a small group. I don't know why he uses the Italian word, maybe to sound more cosmopolitan or something. But Vicenza is in the Veneto region. It's just straight west of Venice, inland. So my impressions about this chapter, I found it really interesting to learn about the origins of physical therapy. When I was doing my research, one of my nieces is a physical therapist, and it's such an important job. Physical therapy saved my life. I was born with a really bad back, and what my neurosurgeon told me was an old lady back, and I used to go to chiropractors and go to pain specialists, and all they did was give me medicine and make things worse until I finally went to physical therapy, and it's the only thing that helped for years and years and years. So thank God for physical therapists. Anyway, there were so many awful things that happened as a result of this war. But I think the ideology, right, the philosophy around Mechano-therapy, or what we now call physical therapy, was one of the good things that came out of that time period. I think his joke about Turkey really highlights how difficult it is to communicate effectively across cultures and why so many people avoid it and develop xenophobia or fear of strangers, because it's embarrassing when you don't know the rules of a different cultural system, right? Every culture has its own stories, its own special artifacts, rituals, customs, and norms. And each of us takes for granted what we learned growing up in our cultural system. it was an arduous process to learn even our own culture. We had to be taught. And so when we have to make adjustments to learn another person's culture, that feels like a daunting task, I think. And it can be really hard to even figure out why it's important to learn another cultural system. I don't know how many times I've heard small business owners say, like, I don't need to learn Mexican. I'm like, you're so stupid. The fact that all your employees speak Spanish might be a good reason for you to learn Mexican. But maybe that's just me. But I think people get lazy and they rationalize their lack of effort in understanding people of other cultures. And it's really a shame because we miss so much connection. Like Henry, the character in the story, could have taken the opportunity to share the Thanksgiving story, right? It's a good little story. It might be total BS, but it's a good story. It's about the natives welcoming, right, the immigrants and breaking bread together and that whole thing. And he could have told them that story. I'm sure they would have appreciated the sentiment of it and learned something about American society and our values. But it demonstrates how detached he is from everyone. Like, he's been detached this entire time. He doesn't initiate conversation. Like, Rinaldi's the big blabbermouth, so all he does is respond to whatever Rinaldi is saying. He doesn't really, initiate a lot. And when he does, it seems like he feels shut down. Or at least that's the way I'm reading it. I could be wrong. I'd love to hear what you think. But the distance I think that he maintains from everyone around him seems like he doesn't want to get attached. So he's basically emotionally unavailable. He just changes the subject when they don't understand him, and he agrees to whatever he thinks they want to hear. And no judgment. I've done the same thing so many times in my life. And I'm personally trying to break the habit now that I'm older, because I realize that every opportunity to connect, especially as we age, becomes fewer and farther in between. And I look back on my life and think about all the opportunities I missed when I could have connected with somebody and I just didn't. And I wish I could go back. I don't know. Regret sucks. But anyway, all the places that they described are just so lovely. Their fantasies around going to Milan and all the places they would visit are so romantic. I think it definitely makes me want to go there immediately, which was the point of that little paragraph. And it definitely demonstrates their need to escape, right? We all have a need to escape to happier times, more hopeful times when we go through crap in our lives. And it's a strong juxtaposition to their current reality, right? And it makes me kind of sad to think that they might never get to experience anything like that if they don't survive this war. I mean, it's not pleasant to think about it, but when we lose lives in a war, we lose all the dreams that those individuals had, all their bright futures are wasted along with their life. And I just think what could have been is the saddest question ever asked. I don't know. The magnitude of their situation is probably overwhelming, which is why I think Lieutenant Henry is choosing to just stay wasted on alcohol, right? Instead of facing his reality. So really, I have to admit, if I was in that situation, I would probably want to escape too. But anyway, that's all I have for Chapter 12 and for Book 1. I plan to take a short break from recording. I don't know exactly when I'll be back, but I want to reformat the podcast a little bit for Book 2. I'm not exactly sure what strategy I'm going to use yet. I'm just trying to figure out what works best for me and what my audience might be interested in. That's you. So if you're listening and you have any suggestions, I would welcome them gratefully. But I know when I continue, when I return, we'll pick up with book 2 of chapter 13 of A Farewell to Arms. So, again, I would really appreciate your feedback. If you can offer me any insights, what you're thinking, what you like, what you hate, or both. Find me on Facebook, and if you send me a message with your contact information, I will personally send you a thank you gift to show my appreciation. So anyway, please join me again next time for more Teen Bedtime Stories. I look forward to talking to you again soon. Thanks for listening.